The Silent Hunters. The ambush begins. The first colony to die was New Geneva. Captain Elena Vasquez watched the orbital footage from her command chair aboard the Ghost Runner, her knuckles white as she gripped the armrests. The Zelthan dreadnoughts had appeared without warning, massive obsidian vessels that blotted out the stars. Their plasma cannons had turned the peaceful mining colony into molten glass in less than an hour. 3 million humans. Gone. Elena's tactical officer, Lieutenant Sarah Kim, looked up from her console with hollow eyes. The young woman had family on New Geneva. Had family. Captain, we're receiving similar reports from Kepler-7 and the Ross system. 12 colonies hit simultaneously. No survivors. The bridge of the Ghost Runner fell silent except for the soft hum of life support systems. Elena's crew had trained for this moment, but nothing could prepare them for the reality of genocide. The Zelthans had made their intentions clear. Humanity was to be wiped from the galaxy. Elena stood slowly, her reflection catching in the darkened view screen. At 42, she had spent half her life preparing for war. The Zelthans had been watching humanity for decades, studying their expansion into space with the cold calculation of apex predators. They had waited until human colonies were spread thin across dozens of systems, then struck with surgical precision. Status. Report, Elena ordered, her voice steady despite the rage building in her chest. All stealth systems operational, reported Chief Engineer Dr. Marcus Thompson from his station. The graying scientist had spent 8 years perfecting the quantum phase technology that made the Ghost Runner invisible to conventional sensors. We're maintaining full cloak. The Zelthans have no idea we're here. Elena nodded. The Ghost Runner was one of 12 experimental stealth destroyers. Humanity's secret weapon developed in the shadows while the aliens watched openly. The ships were smaller than traditional battlecruisers, but what they lacked in size they made up for in lethality and invisibility. Humanity's secret weapon Admiral Chen Wei's voice crackled through the encrypted communications array. The fleet. Admiral was broadcasting from the hidden command station in the asteroid belt, one of the few secure locations left to humanity. All Ghost units, this is Phantom Command. The Zelthans have revealed their true nature. They come not as conquerors, but as exterminators. They believe humanity is weak, scattered, defenseless. Chen's voice carried the weight of command and the fire of determination. They are about to learn why that assumption will cost them everything. Elena activated her ship's communication system. Around her, the bridge crew turned to listen. These men and women had volunteered for a mission they knew might be one way. They had left families, careers, and normal lives behind to serve aboard humanity's most advanced warships. Ghost Runner acknowledges. Phantom Command. We are locked and loaded. Good. Phase 1 begins now. Show them that humans are not prey. Show them that we are the predators they should have feared. The communication ended, leaving Elena alone with her thoughts and her crew. Through the view screen, she could see the distant glow of burning colonies. The Zelthans had struck first, but they had made a critical error. They had assumed human desperation would lead to panic. Instead, it had forged something far more dangerous. Dr. Thompson approached her command chair. Captain, the quantum phase drive is holding steady. We can maintain invisibility for another 72 hours before needing to cycle the systems. More than enough time, Elena replied. She turned to her navigation officer. Plot a course for the Zelthan supply convoy, the one heading for the Proxima sector. Lieutenant Kim looked up from her tactical display. Captain, that convoy is protected by 2 heavy cruisers and a battle frigate. Even with our stealth advantage, we're outgunned 20-1. Elena's smile was cold and sharp. Then we'll just have to be smarter than they are. First strike. The Zelthan supply convoy moved through space with the arrogance of the unchallenged. Their ships were beautiful in their own way, flowing curves of dark metal that seemed to absorb light. The aliens had ruled their corner of the galaxy for millennia, crushing dozens of species beneath their technological superiority. Elena watched them through the Ghost Runner's advanced sensors. The convoy consisted of 6 massive cargo vessels, each carrying enough supplies to sustain a Zeltan fleet for months. The escort ships moved in a predictable pattern, their commanders confident that no human vessel could challenge them. They were right. No conventional human vessel could. But the Ghost Runner was anything but conventional. "All stations report ready," Kim announced. "Quantum torpedoes armed and targeted. Plasma cannons charging." Elena studied the tactical display. The Ghost Runner carried weapons that existed only in theory 5 years ago. Quantum torpedoes that could phase through shields, plasma cannons that drew power directly from the ship's fusion core, and railguns that fired projectiles at significant fractions of light speed. "Remember?" Elena addressed her crew. "We're not here to engage in a fair fight. We're here to hunt. We strike hard, we strike fast, and we disappear before they know what hit them." The Ghost Runner moved into position, sliding through space like a phantom. Her engines ran silent, her hull absorbing electromagnetic radiation, her very existence hidden from the universe. Elena had trained her crew to think like wolves, not soldiers. "Firing solution locked," reported the weapons officer. "All tubes. Ready? Fire." The Ghost Runner unleashed hell. Quantum torpedoes materialized inside the cargo ship's hulls, detonating with devastating effect. The lead cargo vessel simply ceased to exist, vaporized in a ball of nuclear fire. The second ship broke apart, its cargo spilling into the void. The third managed to raise its shields, but the quantum warheads phased through them as if they weren't there. The escort ships reacted with trained precision, but they were firing at ghosts. Their sensors couldn't lock onto the Ghost Runner's cloaked signature. Their weapons found only empty space. Elena watched as the Zeltan battle frigate spun desperately, trying to locate the source of the attack. Its plasma cannons fired in wide arcs, hoping to hit something, anything. The shots passed harmlessly, through the space where the Ghost Runner had been moments before. "Target the frigate's engines," Elena ordered. "Let's see how well they fight when they can't run." The railguns spoke with the voice of thunder. Tungsten slugs moving at incredible velocity punched through the Zeltan ship's armor like paper. The frigate's drives exploded in brilliant cascades of energy, leaving the vessel dead in space. "All cargo ships destroyed," Kim reported, her voice filled with grim satisfaction. "2 escort vessels crippled, one attempting to flee." "Let it go," Elena said. "Let it report back to its commanders. Let them know that humanity has teeth." The hunt begins over the following weeks. The Ghost Runner and her sister ships became legends of terror among the Zeltan fleet. They struck without warning, destroyed their targets with ruthless efficiency, and vanished before retaliation could be organized. Supply convoys disappeared. Patrol squadrons went silent. Even heavily defended installations found themselves under attack by weapons that shouldn't exist. Elena stood in the Ghost Runner's observation deck, watching the debris of another Zeltan convoy drift past. This had been their 15th successful engagement, and each victory brought them closer to evening the odds. Dr. Thompson joined her at the viewport. "The quantum phase technology is holding up better than we hoped. We've been able to maintain operations without any significant system failures." "Good," Elena replied. "Because we're just getting started." The latest intelligence reports painted a picture of growing Zeltan concern. Their military commanders were demanding answers. How were humans, a species they considered barely capable of interstellar travel, conducting such sophisticated attacks? How were human ships bypassing their sensor networks and shields? Elena's communication array chimed with an incoming message from Phantom Command. Admiral Chen's face appeared on the screen, and for the first time in weeks, he was smiling. "Ghost Runner, excellent work on the Arcturus convoy. Zeltan communications are in chaos. They're pulling ships back from the outer colonies to protect their supply lines." "About time they started taking us seriously," Elena replied. "It gets better. Our intelligence network has identified the location of the Zeltan command ship, the Sovereign's Will, their flagship. If we can take it out, we'll decapitate their entire operation in this sector." Elena felt her pulse quicken. The Sovereign's Will was more than just a ship. It was a symbol of Zeltan dominance, a mobile fortress that had broken the resistance of a dozen species. Destroying it would send shockwaves throughout the galaxy. What's the tactical situation? Chen's expression grew serious. It's heavily defended. The ship itself is nearly 3 kilometers long, with armor that can withstand direct hits from conventional weapons. It's escorted by a full battle group, including their newest class of dreadnoughts. And you want us to attack it? I want you to do what you do best, hunt, find its weakness, exploit it, and show the galaxy that humanity refuses to die quietly. Elena looked around the bridge at her crew. These people had followed her into battle after battle, trusted her judgment, and never questioned orders that should have been suicide missions. They were the best of humanity, forged by necessity, into something their enemies couldn't understand. Galactic, the Sovereign's will moved through space like a mobile city. Elena watched it through long-range sensors, studying its defenses and escort pattern. The Zelthon flagship was a marvel of engineering, its hull gleaming with the dark metal that made their ship so distinctive. Preliminary scans complete, reported Kim. The ship's shields are unlike anything we've encountered. They're layered, with multiple redundancies. Even our quantum torpedoes might not penetrate them. Dr. Thompson was hunched over his sensor readings, his brow furrowed in concentration. There's something else, Captain. The ship's power signature is enormous. Whatever they're powering in there, it's drawing more energy than their engines and weapons combined. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. What kind of weapon requires that much power? The kind that could sterilize an entire planet from orbit, Thompson replied grimly. The implications hit Elena like a physical blow. The Zeltons weren't just conducting a war of conquest. They were preparing to erase humanity from existence, to burn every world humans had ever touched. The Sovereign's will wasn't just a flagship, it was a weapon of absolute genocide. Her communication array activated with an urgent message from the other ghost ships. Captain Maria Santos of the Phantom Strike appeared on screen, her face grim. Elena, we've got problems. The Zelthons have adapted. They're using wide-spectrum sensor sweeps and gravity detectors. 2 of our ships have been compromised. The Silent Death was destroyed an hour ago, all hands lost. Elena's heart sank. The Silent Death had been commanded by Captain James Morrison, one of her oldest friends. His crew had been volunteers just like hers. Good people who had died fighting for humanity's survival. How many ships do we have left? 7, including yours, but Elena, there's something else. Our intelligence suggests the Zelthons are preparing to activate that weapon aboard the Sovereign's will. If they do, Earth is first on their list. Elena looked at her crew, seeing the same determination in their eyes that she felt in her heart. They had started this war as prey, hunted across the galaxy by a superior force. But prey could become predators when cornered. Prey could develop fangs. All ghost units, this is Elena Vasquez. We're moving to final position. Whatever happens next, remember that we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for every human child who deserves to see tomorrow. We're fighting for the right to exist. The responses came back immediately, voices filled with resolve and fury. Phantom Strike acknowledges, ready to hunt. Blood Moon standing, by. Let's finish this. Dark Angel ready. Time to show them what humans can do. Elena felt a surge of pride. These captains and their crews represented the best of humanity. They had taken the worst the galaxy could throw at them and turned it into strength. The Ghost Runner moved closer to the Sovereign's will, her cloaking system straining to hide her from the increasingly sophisticated sensor sweeps. Around her, the other surviving ghost ships took their positions. The final battle was about to begin, and Elena intended to make sure the Zelthons remembered it for the rest of their species' existence. They had started this war to erase humanity from the galaxy. Instead, they were about to learn why humans had survived every challenge their own world had thrown at them. They were about to learn that sometimes the hunted becomes the hunter. When predators become prey, the Zelthon trap was elegant in its simplicity. Fleet Commander Zektar had studied human tactics for weeks, analyzing every ghost ship attack, every pattern of movement. The humans were clever, he admitted. But cleverness could be predicted. Arrogance could be exploited. Elena watched through the Ghost Runner's sensors as the Zelthon battle group spread out in what appeared to be a standard patrol formation. Too standard. Too convenient. The Sovereign's will sat at the center, seemingly vulnerable, while its escorts moved in predictable patterns that left obvious gaps. It's a trap, Lieutenant Kim stated flatly from her tactical station. They're trying to draw us in. Of course it's a trap, Elena replied, studying the formation. The question is whether we're walking into their trap or they're walking into ours. Dr. Thompson looked up from his engineering console, concern evident in his weathered features. Captain, our stealth systems are being pushed to their limits. The Zelthans are using some kind of quantum resonance scanner. It's like they're trying to map empty space itself. Elena nodded grimly. The enemy was adapting faster than they had hoped. But adaptation was a two-way street, and humans had been adapting to hostile environments for millions of years. It was literally in their DNA. She activated the secure communication channel to the other ghost ships. All units, this is Ghost Runner. Enemy formation is clearly a trap, but we're going to spring it anyway. Remember, we're not here to play by their rules. Captain Santos of the Phantom Strike responded first. Elena, they're expecting us to attack the flagship directly. What if we don't give them what they expect? A smile played across Elena's lips. This was why she trusted her. Fellow captains, they understood that sometimes the best way to avoid a trap was to trigger it deliberately, but not in the way your enemy anticipated. Phantom Strike, Blood Moon, Dark Angel. You're with me on the primary assault. Make it look real, but stay mobile. Spectral Wind, Iron Ghost, Shadow Dancer. I have a special mission for you. Elena's plan was audacious, dangerous, and completely insane, which meant it was perfectly human. Human ingenuity. The asteroid field near the Kepler system had been formed millions of years ago when two planets collided in a cosmic dance of destruction. Now it would serve as humanity's advantage. Elena had spent hours studying the field's composition and gravitational patterns, looking for something the Zelthans would never expect. Spectral Wind, are you in position? Elena asked through the encrypted channel. Captain Rodriguez's voice came back tense but determined. We're nestled between two Class M asteroids, just like you suggested. The Zelthan sensors are having trouble distinguishing us from the surrounding rock. Perfect. Iron Ghost, Shadow Dancer, status report. In position near the solar collection. Array, Captain Park replied. Dr. Thompson's modifications to our power systems are holding steady. We're ready to execute your crazy plan. Elena felt a surge of pride. Her fellow captains had trusted her enough to attempt something that violated every principle of conventional warfare. They were about to turn the local star itself into a weapon. The Ghost Runner moved toward the Zelthan formation, her sister ships maintaining their positions in the asteroid field. To the enemy sensors, it would appear that only 4 human ships were approaching, exactly what they would expect from a desperate final assault. All ships begin the dance, Elena ordered. The 4 ghost ships opened fire simultaneously, quantum torpedoes and plasma bolts lighting up the darkness. The Zelthan fleet responded exactly as predicted, moving to encircle the attacking vessels. Their formation began to close like a fist, preparing to crush the human ships between overlapping fields of fire. But Elena had studied more than tactics in her years of preparation. She had studied psychology, xenobiology, and most importantly, the Zelthan concept of honor. They were a proud species, one that valued direct confrontation and overwhelming force. They would never expect their enemies to use the environment itself as a weapon. Now, Elena shouted. In the asteroid field, Iron Ghost and Shadow Dancer activated Dr. Thompson's most audacious invention. Their modified engines began channeling stellar radiation through crystalline formations embedded in nearby asteroids, creating a focused beam of solar energy more intense than anything nature had ever produced. The beam lanced across space, striking the Sovereign's will's shields with the concentrated fury of a star. The flagship's defenses, designed to withstand conventional weapons, buckled under an assault they had never been designed to counter. The final Gambit Fleet Commander Zektar stared at his tactical display in disbelief. The humans were using the system star as a weapon. It was impossible. It was insane. It was brilliant. Shields failing on multiple sections, his tactical officer reported, his scaled hands moving frantically across his controls. The solar beam is overloading our defense grid. Return fire on those asteroid positions, Zektar commanded. Destroy whatever they're using to focus that energy. But the ghost ships were already moving. Spectral wind emerged from her hiding place, railguns blazing as she targeted the Zelthan ships trying to bombard the asteroid field. The Shadow Dancer vanished back into the rock maze, her mission complete, while Iron Ghost continued to direct the stellar beam with surgical precision. Elena watched as sections of the Sovereign's Will's armor began to glow and buckle. The weapon, hidden within the flagship, was massive, requiring most of the ship's internal space. That size made it powerful, but it also made it vulnerable. Ghost Runner to all units. The flagship's primary weapon is exposed. Concentrate all fire on Section 7, Deck 12. We end this now. The remaining ghost ships converged on the wounded flagship like wolves sensing blood. Quantum torpedoes phased through the weakened shields, plasma bolts carved through damaged armor, and railgun slugs punched deep into the ship's vital systems. But the Zelthans were not finished. As their flagship died around them, they made one final desperate gamble. The planet killer weapon began to charge, drawing power from the ship's failing reactor core. Elena saw the energy readings spike on her sensors and understood immediately what the enemy intended. They would fire their weapon even as their ship was destroyed, taking Earth with them in their death throes. All ships, emergency acceleration. We need to get clear of the blast radius. But Elena knew, even as she gave the order, that they wouldn't make it in time. The weapon would fire in seconds and Earth was 200 light-years away. But quantum energy didn't follow the normal rules of space and time. Dr. Thompson looked up from his console, his face grim but determined. Captain, there is one option. If we detonate our quantum torpedoes inside the flagship's reactor core at the exact moment their weapon fires, the interference pattern might disrupt the beam. Elena understood immediately. The explosion would destroy the Ghost Runner and everyone aboard her. It would also destroy the Sovereign's Will and every Zelthan ship in the immediate area. She looked around her bridge at the crew that had followed her through hell and beyond. These people had volunteered for a mission they knew might be one way. They had left everything behind to serve aboard humanity's most advanced warship. Crew of the Ghost Runner, Elena announced over the ship's communication system. You all knew when we began this mission that we might not return home. Today we have the chance to ensure that home will still exist for others to return to. The responses came immediately without hesitation. Ready to serve, Captain. Let's finish what we started. For humanity. Elena felt her heart swell with pride and grief. She activated the communication channel to the other ghost ships. All units, this is Ghost Runner. Continue the mission. Make sure the galaxy remembers that humanity does not go quietly into the night. Victory through sacrifice. The Ghost Runner accelerated toward the dying flagship, her quantum torpedoes armed and ready. Around her, the battle continued as the remaining ghost ships engaged the Zelthan escorts, but Elena's attention was focused entirely on the massive energy buildup within the Sovereign's Will. 15 seconds to weapon discharge, Dr. Thompson reported, his voice steady despite the circumstances. We need to be inside their shield perimeter for this to work. Elena watched the distance close on her tactical display. The Zelthan flagship loomed ahead, its hull breached and burning but still magnificent in its alien architecture. It would be her tomb, but it would also be her victory. All torpedoes, manual detonation, Elena ordered. Dr. Thompson, you have the trigger. The scientist nodded grimly. It's been an honor serving with you, Captain. The honor was mine. The Ghost Runner plunged into the Sovereign's Will's shield envelope just as the planet killer weapon reached full charge. Elena saw the energy discharge begin, a beam of destruction that could sterilize worlds, heading toward Earth at speeds that defied comprehension. Now! Elena shouted. Dr. Thompson triggered the quantum torpedoes. The explosion was beyond anything human science had ever created. The interaction between the quantum warheads and the Zelthan weapon created a cascade, failure that rippled through dimensions. The Sovereign's will simply ceased to exist, taking the Ghost Runner and 2 nearby Zelthan cruisers with it. But more importantly, the destructive beam meant for Earth was dispersed into harmless radiation, scattered across the cosmos like dust in the wind. New respect, Captain. Maria Santos watched the explosion from the bridge of the Phantom Strike, tears streaming down her face. Elena Vasquez had been more than a fellow captain. She had been a friend, a leader, and the embodiment of everything humanity could be when pushed to its limits. All Zelthan ships are withdrawing, reported her tactical officer. The surviving vessels are broadcasting surrender codes. Santos wiped her eyes and straightened in her command chair. The battle was won, but the war was far from over. However, something fundamental had changed in the galaxy's balance of power. Over the following months, word of the battle spread throughout known space. The Zelthans, masters of the galaxy for millennia, had been defeated by a species they considered inferior. The humans had not only survived an attempted genocide but had turned the tables on their would-be destroyers. Admiral Chen Wei stood before the United Earth Assembly, delivering his report on the Ghost Fleet operations. The Zelthan Empire has agreed to a ceasefire and recognition of human territorial claims. They've also agreed to provide reparations for the colonies they destroyed. The Assembly members murmured among themselves, still struggling to comprehend how such a victory had been possible. "How many ships do we have left?" asked the Secretary General. 6, Chen replied simply. 6 ships changed the course of galactic history. But the real change wasn't in politics or territory. It was in perception. Across the galaxy, species that had been subjugated by the Zelthans began to whisper about the humans who had refused to die. Younger races looked to humanity as proof that even the most powerful oppressors could be challenged. The Ghost Fleet had become legends, and legends, as humanity had learned throughout its history, had a power all their own. Ships were named after Elena Vasquez and her crew. Tactics they had pioneered were studied in military academies across dozens of worlds. But perhaps most importantly, humanity had earned something it had never possessed before: respect. Not as a curiosity or a potential threat, but as a force to be reckoned with. The galaxy had learned that humans, when cornered, didn't simply fight. They adapted, they innovated, and they won. In the depths of space, automated memorial beacons marked the location where the Ghost Runner had made her final stand. The messages they broadcast were simple, transmitted in hundreds of languages. Here lies the crew of the UHSF Ghost Runner. They started as prey. They died as predators. They saved a world by sacrificing themselves. This is what humanity means. The Zelthans had started a war to erase humanity from the galaxy. Instead, they had forged them into something stronger, something more dangerous than they had ever been before. The prey had become the apex predator, and the galaxy would never be the same. In Earth's orbital shipyards, construction began on a new class of vessel. They were larger than the ghost ships, more powerful, and equipped with technologies that pushed the boundaries of known science. Humanity had learned the most important lesson of all: the best way to ensure peace was to be too dangerous to attack. The war had been intended to take human lives. Instead, it had given birth to human legends, and in a galaxy full of ancient civilizations and forgotten empires, that was the most human thing of all.